Sam Phillips has 1 year. So, I mean, we're going to talk about Sam Phillips. They added him. I think he's a steal. I think you got to give Tim Lester a lot of credit. I think I think the wide receiver room is developing faster than the quarterback room. And when I say developing, I'm not talking about what Tim Lester has necessarily done hands-on, because it's hard to do a lot of work hands-on, like gain a ton of traction in less than a year. Haven't even gotten a spring ball with your guys. Well, I guess, did they get a spring ball? When did he get hired? I don't remember when he got hired now. I guess they got a spring ball with Tim. Of course, they had to have had a spring ball with Tim. But it was about this time when they hired him last year. And, he didn't get Jacob Gill in until summer. And now he gets Sam Phillips in. I just think the addition of those two guys is huge. I just think those two guys, those guys are 1A and 1B right now, where I project the receiver room to be. And I said last night I recorded a video on Sam Phillips. I don't know who's third. Is it Reese Vanderzee? Is it Jarrett Bowie? Is it Seth Anderson? Is it Dayton Howard? KJ Parker is another guy to watch out for. But I'll tell you what, I look forward to seeing the battle for that other spot. And it's not that Sam Phillips and Jacob Gill are locked in, but everything I've heard about Sam Phillips is how hard of a worker he is. He's an experienced guy who brings in tons of production, albeit at a lesser level. But I project Sam Phillips and Jacob Gill to fit in together like two peas in a pod, and to have that level of maturity and talent. I think probably Sam is a little bit more talented. Jacob's got a little bit better size. But to have that combined, that's a great start for that room. And if they can stay healthy, I think the receivers have an opportunity to, really have a successful season.
Have you watched Sam Phillips?
Yeah. Yeah.
Chattanooga, they probably, based on my knowledge of their schedule, play maybe one big opponent per year.
Yeah. They played, if I'm not mistaken, played Tennessee this year. And they played, who did they play? Was it last year? And his numbers were pedestrian against the bigger opponents. He went off, he had a couple of games where he was pushing 200 receiving yards. He's got over 2,000 career receiving yards. He's got deceptive speed, really good hands. There was a stat out there, and who knows how accurate this is. I kind of doubt legitimacy of some of these stats, but there's a fact floating around that he didn't have a single drop this year. Now, I talked to Coach Patterson about this after I heard that, and I think we both can agree that if you got all the tape, you probably find a drop or two somewhere. But even the fact that you'd suggest that he didn't have a drop is an indicator that he's got pretty good hands.
The last time I've heard that statistic, it was attributed to Hunter Renfrow at Clemson.
Yeah, well, different to do it at the Big Ten level, but I don't care. I really don't care that much about height anymore. There's just too many really skilled receivers that have done it because they have excellent route running ability, excellent hands, and good speed. Rondale Moore comes to mind. Tyreek Hill comes to mind.
Hunter Renfrow.
Hunter Renfrow comes to mind. How about all the guys that Tim Lester worked with back at Western Michigan? Every single one of those guys was undersized, and they all ended up being second-round draft picks. So
Julian Edelman.
Oh, yeah.
Guys.
Go down the list. Who's the guy that used to play for Buffalo? What's the kid's
Stephon
name?
Diggs?
No, well, he's not very big. How big is Stephon Diggs?
Not very, but you're thinking of somebody else.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the little slot receiver. Kind of reminded me of Beasley, Cole Beasley. How big is he?
Yeah.
Where did he play college ball?
He played somewhere in the Big 12, I think.
SMU.
Oh, he played at SMU.
Used to be Big 12, right? SMU years ago.
Southwest Conference.
Southwest Conference, yeah.
Okay. That became the Big 12 in a sense. with a big 8. This took me off track, but anyway, okay, Sam Phillips. Yeah, the height situation, as long as you have other receivers that are, I don't think you want a bunch of 5'8" guys running around the field. Like if you've got one guy like that.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have any other 5'8" guys running around.
Yeah.
I mean, you still got to be able to, first of all, you still got to be able to block. But smaller guys can block.
Ideally, you have a variety. You've got the prototypical slot guy. You've got the big bodied guy that blocks guys out. You've got the burner.
And that's the question mark. I don't know. When I say I don't know who the third receiver is, I think it will. I would probably give Seth Anderson the nod, but he's not big. But how big is big? Like, how big do you need your prototypical X receiver to be? Does he need to be 6'3", 6'4"?
Yeah. He doesn't need to be, but that's ideal. We're
Yeah.
speaking about ideals.
I don't know. I got so turned off by all the misses from Brian Ferentz and company because they went after all these big receivers and none of them panned out. Just none of them panned out, Mark. So I'm like, hey, let's go after guys with speed, route running ability, who have soft hands. And I think that's what they've done with Jacob. Jacob Gill's not real small, but he's probably 6 foot. He's not big. Dayton Howard is the biggest guy on the roster right now at that position. Maybe he ends up being the X guy.
Why am I remembering Seth Anderson from, as I look at his stats right now, 5 catches, 106 yards after 11 catches the season before with 1 touchdown? Why am I remembering Seth Anderson related to the Iowa State game? Did he made a big play or he had a big drop?
Yeah, he had a big drop this year. Last year,
yes,
he had
this year.
Last year in Ames, he had a big catch conversion. He's the one who caught that first touchdown in the first game of last season with Cade McNamara when Cade had first transferred. Remember, they go up against Utah State, and the first play from scrimmage, they go route with Seth, and he catches a touchdown pass, and the crowd's chanting, "We want Bama!" But anyways, yeah, he did have a drop or two, but he really has dealt with injuries, and that was my one thing when I recorded last night. I'm like, I would probably give him the nod, although he's not real big. I'd give him the nod to be the third guy if he stays healthy. If not, Jarrett Bowie's bigger, like probably 6'2", 6'3". Dayton Howard's like 6'5". They like Dayton Howard, so maybe it's him. I'm trying to think who else. Vanderzee is also pretty big. He's 6'4". So I just don't think Tim is the type. I think he wants his best players out there, regardless of size. And I understand situationally, you can you want to be balanced with that, but I'm excited to see what he can do with Phillips and Gill together, who both have very soft, sure hands and deceptive. Both of them, I think, have deceptive speed. Both of I'd like to know who wins in a foot race between Gill and Phillips, because I think they both have deceptive speed, and I don't think their lack of downfield attack this year had much to do with lack of perimeter speed from Jacob Gill. I just think you need more than one threat. And the other problem is they just had very little stability at quarterback, as you and I both know. So pass pro is a question because they lose some, but I think the passing game is primed to take a jump.
Vanderzee was impressive.
For a little while. For one game.
For one game?
For one game. Go look at his stats. Well, go look at his stats. Had 2 touchdowns against Illinois State week 1 and then didn't do anything against Iowa State. Rock 82 says Seth Anderson was out with an injury this year versus Iowa State. You might have been thinking of the Iowa State game the previous year. He had either had a big catch or a big drop. But yeah, I'm excited to see what this offense looks like in 24. I think there's lots of reason for optimism. I think their run game is in a really good place, especially with the return of Logan Jones and Jennings Dunker. So that's positive. And they're still, until I see it on the field, until I see a healthy group of quarterbacks pushing one another, I'm going to have questions there. And I was hopeful, like many fans were, that we would see for instance, the open spring practice, we'd see Gronowski battle with Sullivan, battle with Jimmy, and we're not going to see the front runner there. So that's disappointing.
As noted in the chat, maybe I'm remembering the Michigan State game with Reese Vanderzee, but I'm also remembering when they hit a couple of third down conversions against Ohio State in the first half. I think those were at least one, if not two of those were to Reese Vanderzee.
Yeah, he came back after the injury, and well, no, I did. Let's see. When did the injury occur? Isn't this terrible? Why is it that you and I can both? I don't know about you. You probably remember everything, but I can go back and I can remember all these games from years ago. I have I struggle with recent years now. Do you do that? Did you ever get to a point in your life where you start to struggle with you can remember things 3 or 4 or 5 years
Yes.
ago?
And I
But I
don't think
get
that was at the age of 28. I think this was at the,
great.
20 years later.
I'm telling you, when I think back to 21, 22, 20, I get 23 and 20. Like I'm getting some of these years mixed up in my own brain. It's hard to believe that Cade was here 2 years. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Well, we're on show 180. In about 20 shows, that's 200. That's 4 years.
Yeah. Well,
we've been doing this a while.
We have. Yeah. Has the show improved at all over 180 years or 180 years, 180 weeks?
I doubt if I've improved. I'm pretty much the same guy. So I don't know. I think I've hit my ceiling.